Even Hollywood insiders were taken aback by Disney's decision to secretly remove Snow White from theaters and bookstores nationwide. It seems as though they are attempting to remove the film from the market. The firm has lost billions of dollars. The real meltdown revolves around Rachel Zegler, who is reportedly collapsing under the pressure after months of unrelenting backlash and disastrous box office numbers. She is reportedly losing it during live streams, ranting and interviewing, and facing the harsh reality that her career might never recover from this disaster. Theaters are empty, and Disney is reportedly scrapping future woke reboots altogether.
Yes, it's all Rachel Zegler and her behavior. And if it was just one comment, it probably would have been forgotten by now. And it became such a disaster that they had to shut her up, which was the smartest move they made.
Theater owners who were contractually required to show Snow White on a certain number of screens began to rebel against Disney. They claimed that attendance was shockingly low, even for weekend performances, and they pleaded with them to let them end the run early because, in many cases, they didn't even wait for permission before replacing it with anything else they could show.
Even if Disney still had the most talented people in the world working, with the best writers, with a good sense of narrative and the cultural moment, even if everything worked perfectly, it would have been almost impossible for this movie to succeed.
Then the internet went viral after a fan shared a little video of a Snow White performance panting across a nearly deserted theater. You could count the people there on one hand. Okay, dokie, I'm walking into Snow White at 2 p.m., now seating. Let's see how empty it is. As the fan enters the barren theater, they discover that there are only 2 people there. The atmosphere felt more like a postponed school assembly than a Disney blockbuster premiere abroad, and things got even worse in Lebanon, where they outright banned the film from all distribution within the nation, not just from theaters, not even from imports. And then came the ultimate humiliation that no Disney executive wants to hear. Yes, Lilo and Stitch, the oddball tropical animated classic, was subtly on track to surpass Snow White's entire run at the US box office in just its first weekend. This wasn't an Avengers film or a Pixar blockbuster. It was just Lilo and her space dog, and it crushed Snow White like it was nothing. Snow White dolls, t-shirts, mugs, and other merchandise were all shipped in small quantities to create artificial demand, but months later, the shelves are still fully stocked, and Disney is unable to even give away the merchandise at this point. When information began to leak to the media, it made Rachel Zegler's situation even worse. First, Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, made remarks in an interview. While she didn't directly blame Rachel, she also didn't defend her when asked about the criticism, pointing out a discrepancy between what the movie showed and what viewers had anticipated. She referred to it as a corporate misalignment. Translation: "This wasn't my fault." Gadot clarified that teamwork is the most crucial factor when making a movie. When you have characters like Snow White and the Evil Queen, you expect teamwork to be a part of the creative process when you're trying to put something special together. However, we didn't really have teamwork, and we had to deal with a lot of setbacks during this entire process, and I just found that to be very exhausting. When asked if she would talk more about her experience working with I'll talk about that when I feel comfortable, because Rachel Gall gave the most damning non-answer imaginable. One sentence that started 10,000 rumors, but for now, I feel like it's not the right time to jump into it. I think those who follow me will be satisfied when I feel more comfortable sharing more details on the specifics. According to Dejo, fans immediately interpreted this as confirmation that things on set were chaotic and that Gal was holding back out of professionalism, but her statement clearly hinted that the truth behind the scenes was far messier than the public realized. Meanwhile, Rachel's other co-star, Andrew Bernab, didn't even show up to the premiere, not for press, not for promotion, nothing. And here's where it gets truly wild. According to reports, Rachel herself had already hinted his scenes might get cut. She literally said during a press event all of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows, it's Hollywood, baby. Imagine putting months of work into a Disney movie only for your lead co-star to openly tell the press, you might not make the final cut. It's no surprise that Andrew didn't walk the red carpet at all, because the atmosphere backstage wasn't just tense, it was downright toxic. Disney took their greatest move to date when they abruptly and quietly announced the cancellation of Tangled, their upcoming major live-action adaptation. It doesn't take much to figure out why Disney hasn't specifically named Snow White as the reason. Tangled was supposed to be the company's next billion-dollar franchise reboot, and early rumors indicated that Rachel Zegler was the leading candidate to play Rapunzel. However, after everything that transpired with Snow White, Disney obviously didn't want to risk repeating the same catastrophe. It wasn't just about recasting, it was about strategy. Another round of fan expectations and a whole campaign centered around a character that the internet was already sick of defending for Disney just weren't worth the possible harm. And executives don't make decisions like that unless they think their main actress is contributing to the issue. What we're witnessing now is more than just a bad film. It is an entire industry. Rejecting someone and leaving studios, abandoning upcoming projects. Rachel was still at the center of it all, and the directors were avoiding responsibility. But that was nothing compared to what transpired next, as the cinemas would be packed after months of defending the film on press tours and promising fans before Snow White came out. Rachel Zegler was seen sitting in one of the most deserted theaters of her career, and it was captured on tape. Rachel was overconfident when she assured fans that the film would be revolutionary and that crowds would embrace her new vision. She reaffirmed her belief that the original Snow White was out of date and that her version would make it right. But when online criticism began to mount, the situation couldn't have been more different. Rachel shared a genuine, heartfelt video on Instagram in which she seemed to be fighting back tears. Her press interviews were being delayed by the internet, and her brash pre-release enthusiasm abruptly transformed into desperate damage control to everyone who hates her. In the heartfelt video, she said, "When I win the winged victory came to the loo in pieces," and she added, "And people still line up to see her, and I can only hope that despite my flaws and despite my cracks and breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do people will wait in line to see." Then came the moment in the theater that would haunt her career. Rachel showed up to a screening of her own movie, flowers in hand, smiling and posing like it was a celebration, but the camera didn't lie. The theater was almost empty, with only a handful of people scattered across silent rows. Fans began reposting it with captions like "Snow White and the 7 empty seats," while others joked that she brought flowers to a funeral, while others claimed it looked like she was holding a press tour for a ghost town. Even with Disney's full marketing machine behind it and a global release, Snow White failed to even break $100 million at the US box office. The film was losing money, and its IMDb score was among the lowest for any recent Disney release. The narrative had completely flipped, with Rachel being blamed for ruining tradition rather than praised for defying it. However, the final blow came from the most unexpected place. Yes, the live-action Minecraft movie debuted weeks after Snow White and took off at the box office right away. However, what many had written off as being too juvenile or silly turned out to be exactly what audiences wanted: fun, low drama, and truly made for the fans. While Rachel's Snow White was barely making it to triple digits, industry insiders claim that Disney's most costly princess reboot appeared to be a parody of itself when Minecraft blew past it in its first weekend, with no political speeches or controversy, just zombies and Jack Black screaming into a microphone. Hollywood has undoubtedly noticed this collapse. Rachel may be passed over for forthcoming roles that Disney isn't ready to support for future reboots, according to allegations that studios are now reevaluating her future projects. With every day that goes by, Disney appears more determined than ever to act as though Snow White never happened. Rachel Zegler, who was once hailed as a rising star, is now facing the biggest question of her career. Can she recover from what happened with Snow White, or did this film close the chapter before it truly began? Disney's social media pages are no longer displaying marketing materials. Press statements concerning future projects are being edited to remove any references to the film. Disney officials who previously enthusiastically discussed remaking the classic have either stopped talking about it or switched their focus to other movies. It's the business equivalent of removing your ex from every picture you have. Just 2 years ago, Rachel was being hailed for her breakthrough role in West Side Story. Critics praised her performance, award shows nominated her, and casting directors lined up to work with her, Disney casting her as Snow White. This role was supposed to be the crowning achievement, the role that would cement her status as Hollywood's next big thing, but it may have ended up being her biggest liability. That's what makes the situation so stunning. Hollywood has a short memory for success, but a long one for disaster. So the question now isn't whether Snow White failed, but rather if Rachel can get past the setback before it defines her entire career. As Rachel deals with the aftermath, according to reports, Disney is reassessing its entire live-action remake strategy. Internal talks now center on staying closer to the original plots, making less contentious casting decisions, and being much more cautious about how they promote these movies. Everyone is waiting to see what happens next. Will Rachel directly address the failure or attempt to go on? Will Disney ever admit what went wrong? The days of reworking classics with contemporary political twists may be done, at least for the time being.